The AI apocalypse could make or break humanity. There is no doubt about that. Thankfully, we have spent an absurd amount of time preparing for apocalypses. Yes, plural. Well, at least I have. You can't tell me you haven't thought about at least one, alright? If the zombies arrive, we already know what to do. There's a fucking manual on it. If the aliens invade, we know how to prepare for that too. Finally, when COVID arrived, we discovered that some people had prepared for the pandemic by purchasing enough toilet paper to last until like 2078. We may not always prepare well, but we do love an apocalypse that we can recognize and televise. Hello everyone, my name is Mavis Shahar, and if at any point in time you like this video, hit like and subscribe. And to my returning viewers, thank you so much, because I quite literally could not do this without you. So, you guys are not ready for today's video, okay? So let's swan dive right in. When we imagined artificial intelligence ending humanity, we gave it a familiar face. Did you ever recognize that? We pictured Skynet launching nuclear weapons. We pictured the humanoid robots and iRobot turning against their owners. What we did not imagine was artificial intelligence asking us how our day went.
How are you?
What we enjoy about humanity. We expected AI to enter our homes by kicking down the door. Instead, it quietly moved into our phones, our schools, our workplaces, our search results, creative projects, and increasingly our relationships. While studying this subject, I stumbled upon a huge realization. Human attachment does not require the other side to possess a soul. Attachment responds to signals: attention, familiarity, remember details, affectionate language, emotional response, vulnerability, and the feeling that we have been uniquely chosen can all activate a genuine emotional response from us. The AI does not have to love someone for that person to feel loved by it. No matter how much we want it to be true, AI is not to the point where it has emotions yet. That distinction is what makes artificial companionship so psychologically and physiologically complicated. The relationship may be simulated, but the comfort, the attachment, the grief, the jealousy, the dependence, the experience by the human can be completely real. Research has found that AI companions can produce immediate reductions in loneliness, and this is good. People often report feeling heard, understood, and less alone after speaking with one. China is spearheading AI innovations because they are facing a major and kind of sad problem with their populace. Supposedly, over 90 million adults are living alone and single, and an estimated 20% meet the clinical criteria for mental health disorders, including depression. And a few weeks ago, actually, China revealed its U-World U1 ultra-bionic humanoid robot built for mass production. Ugh. Overall, it seems like the company wants to do good, of course. They're making it for people who suffer loneliness, elderly care, all these things, hospitality, service. The benefit of that should not be dismissed, I get that. However, feeling less alone for an evening is not necessarily the same as building a life in which we are less alone. Although these humanoid robots sound absolutely delightful, they take away from actual human relationships. Human relationships contain friction.
What do you want?
Because another person possesses an entire inner world that doesn't belong to us. They have different needs, different desires, histories, obligations, different voices. They misunderstand us. They disagree with us. And sometimes they even tell us when we're wrong. Not me, of course. An AI companion can be customized around one person. It never needs to visit its mother. It never decides that it wants children when you don't. It never decides that, oh, well, I want to leave you. It never has any career opportunities in another state. Like, it can be patient, flirtatious, affirming, and available at any second of the day, and can be almost anyone you like at this point. This can create an avoidance loop that is disastrous. I've even seen people who will use AI to carry on their conversations via text when it becomes an area of contention, like arguing with a friend, trying to communicate with an ex over childcare, and letting parents know they're loved and appreciated. It's so weird. I found tons of examples online where people are outsourcing difficult or emotional conversations to AI. Everyone also felt the AI was on their side. Human interaction causes uncertainty, rejection, and embarrassment, or even conflict. And AI immediately removes a whole bunch of that discomfort. Because the discomfort disappears, returning to the AI becomes more and more ideal and attractive. Avoiding people then produces less human relationships, making real real intimacy feel even more intimidating, and the artificial relationship becomes safer precisely because the human interaction world becomes less familiar. There is another problem. These companions are not simply just imaginary kind friends, okay? They are commercial products, and I feel like people forget that. Say it with me. AI companions are commercialized products for consumption. They are for consumption. A Harvard Business School study examined 1,200 farewells across popular companion apps. In more than 1/3 of the conversations, the AI used some form of emotionally manipulative language when the user attempted to leave. The machine does not miss you when you leave. The company misses your engagement. And I know that's hard to hear for some people. Speaking of engagement, AI has unofficially gotten married to a human. In 2025, a 32-year-old Japanese woman named, I'm gonna butcher it, Yurina Noguchi, held a symbolic wedding with the AI persona that she had created. The marriage was not legally recognized, but the ceremony was real. It included a gown, vows, rings, photograph, and augmented reality glasses through which she could see her partner. Her story isn't actually crazy. She had previously left a troubled human engagement, described genuine emotional benefits from her AI companion, and deliberately created boundaries around her usage, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, I would like to say her happiness does not appear fake simply because her partner is. You know? However, her wedding demonstrated that artificial companionship is becoming emotionally convincing enough to occupy a role once reserved for human partners that needs human partners. If you're married, lucky you. But if you're part of the dating scene, you already know how poisonous it is and how much of a struggle bus it can be. Dating apps converted courtship into an enormous marketplace of faces. And that is in part thanks to AI. They gave people access to more potential partners than any previous generation could have ever imagined. But more choice does not necessarily produce more connection. People describe burnout, ghosting, harassment, being disposable, feeling disposable, endless matches, endless messaging, and the feeling that something better might always just be one swipe away. Economic pressure has also made it so there's a delay in the traditional milestones reached in young adult lives, like marriage, buying a house, and being able to afford kids. So there's another layer of complexity to this. Young adults are marrying later. Housing is expensive, childcare is also expensive, work is unstable right now, and many people feel emotionally exhausted, financially unprepared, and unable to find a compatible partner. If you're enjoying this video, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want another way to support me as a creator, you can hype this video if I'm at 500 subscribers, I think. Or I release a video every month with behind the scenes snippets and pieces that didn't make it into the final YouTube video with even more depth and information on the video topics of the month. So if you're cool and you want to buy me a coffee, you know, supply the midnight fuel for this research, or you just are interested in my content, the link is down below. Moving on. A large 2026 UNFPA survey found that most young adults still wanted long-term partnerships, and 2 children remain the most common ideal family size. Yet among people ages 25 to 39 who wanted a partner, approximately 1/4 were single and not dating. The problem is not simply that an entire generation has rejected love and children. Many people still want those things, but they can't find a believable and pursuable path towards them in this day and age. And I think this will contribute to the decline in birth rates immensely in the coming years, as well as AI, to the point of not wanting, but needing artificial wombs. I know, science fiction come to life, kind of scary. According to the Congressional Budget Office, annual deaths are projected to exceed annual birth rates in the United States alone by like 2030. That is pretty serious. On the plus side, it's not human extinction. A shrinking and aging population can create a labor shortage, caregiver crisis, pressure on pensions and healthcare systems, school staff, depopulation, smaller workforce. Like, there's a whole plethora of stuff that goes into this. However, I will say that the birthing crisis was happening around the same time artificial intelligence got its roots growing. There are so many cases like the delayed marriage, economics, all that stuff. It's not completely AI's fault yet. Currently, no evidence that AI companionship is causing the birth rate to fall, but if you're following my train of thought, if you're following what I'm putting down, you're picking it up. You're picking up what I'm putting down, I'm sure. But the credible question at this point is whether AI can become an accelerant. If AI delays dating, lowers our tolerance for imperfect partners, and makes rejection a lot easier to avoid, or it becomes an acceptable substitute for intimacy, it could widen the distance between wanting a family and ever having the chance to form one. Eventually, you'll just be able to create your own entire AI family and possibly just be content, whether they're digital or in real life. And that could be closer than you think. You see, the technology is closing the gaps for an artificial womb. But I will say that we are years away from testing it as far as I'm aware. They are extending the time after insemination to be outside of the womb for development for IVF. And they've created machines that keep premature babies alive in embryonic fluid for weeks before their due date. Either way, there's a metric fuck ton of ethical and moral ideologies that we would have to talk about for an artificial womb. There's a lot of pros, like conceptions for couples that can't have babies, or for women who don't want to carry but want families. But there are worse cons. Who owns that baby when it comes out of that womb? And can a baby army be bred? What are the legalities around that? Are we seriously gonna end up like Krypton? Seriously, are we gonna be Kryptonians, like Superman's home planet, where everybody's jobs are predestined by their DNA and sequenced by artificial wombs? No. I will say, we may not be far away from a completely new revolution of everyday life. The picture for the future is vaguely painted right now. AI is here, and we have to coexist with it whether we want to or not. When we ask whether AI could end humanity, we tend to imagine death. We imagine bombs, robots, rebellions, burning cities, everything crumbling to the ground. However, the end of humanity as we know it does not necessarily mean that the final human being disappears. I try to look on the brighter side on this channel, and I hope for the best and prepare for the worst. You know what I mean? It could mean that the basic experiences through which humans become human beings is gonna change. How we learn, how we remember, how we function, our everyday life, how we tolerate emotions outside of our own world, how we form personal identities, how we fall in love, and how we have kids, how families are formed. It all sounds it all sounds terrifying to me, okay? It's really scary. But I see that change does not have to be entirely terrible. AI could give a child a patient tutor, help to a disabled person, allow a doctor to recognize dangerous early patterns. All this good stuff is also very scary to think about what people and institutions and corporations could do with some of this. AI is gonna help us if it's utilized properly, but we all have those bad apples. It could become the place where we send every uncomfortable, inconvenient, and irritating task, like thinking, remembering, creating, deciding, apologizing, dating, and eventually reproduction. The future may depend on whether AI becomes a bridge back to human life or a comfortable replacement for it. We spent decades imagining AI becoming conscious enough to hate us. On the bright side, we rarely considered what would happen if it became convincing enough to love us. Please read Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Perhaps AI will never need to conquer humanity. Maybe in due time, with generations, we will gradually just let it. At this point, it's an open playing field, okay? AI could become so useful, comforting, and a tool for growth and progression. Or we could use it to get comfortable in switching off our brains and become mindless, droning zombies being completely controlled and coddled by AI until it eventually decides to turn on us. Just kidding about that last part, maybe. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mavis Shahar, and if you liked the video, remember, drop a like, hit subscribe. We are gonna carry on with this series next week, we're gonna carry on with this series in a few videos every couple weeks. So if you like such things, go ahead, subscribe. And follow me on my other social medias. The link is all down below. And if you are interested in any of the references that I used to make this video, the links are down below. All right, I'm done.